Oh, close. So today's video is going to be real simple. It's going to be about your impact position when you're putting. And I've set up here, as you can clearly see, a laser line. And the laser is going to be the back edge of the golf ball. And I want you to think about is if that is the finishing line, is it the putter that's getting to the finish line first, or is it your hands? So putters start with 3.5 degrees of loft on, generally, when you buy them from the shop. We actually only need about 1 or 2 degrees by the time we hit the golf ball, so we should de-loft the golf club slightly, but only by a degree or so. I tend to see poor putters who struggle with distance control adding on too much loft through impact, so that would look something more like this, where the putter's actually beating their hands to the golf ball, and you can clearly see I felt like I put a similar stroke length and amount of energy into it, and yet the ball's come up a couple of foot short of the hole. So that will be that I'm adding too much loft. And also when that's starting to happen, we may well be striking the ball quite low in the blade as well, out the bottom of the head. So when we're not hitting the ball out the centre, in any golf shot, what happens? It just doesn't travel the distance it should do. So what I'd like to see really here at setup is a position where my hands are slightly ahead of the golf club. I'm only talking about a little bit. So my hands, you can see almost the laser line here. That's the back edge of the golf ball. The front edge of the putter is the back edge of my grip. So straight up would be around here somewhere. So I'm having my handle slightly forwards and I'm trying to return into a similar position. I wouldn't want my hands excessively forwards and I wouldn't want them excessively back. The putter does catch up and release and pass the hands, but really this is starting to happen more post-impact. It might be happening in the downswing, but you'd still get to an impact position in an ideal world where your hands are at least level with the golf club. So there are some players out on the tour who have an earlier sort of wrist set here almost, if you like, in the backswing, who release the club a little bit more or a little bit earlier, but will still return that way. Well, as long as you return with the same amount of loft on, you strike out the middle, it doesn't matter. But on a short to mid-range putt, what's the simplest thing I can do? Well, just maintain my angles. Almost just feeling like there's very little wrist action. The wrist might start to come a little bit more involved as we need longer putts, sort of 40 foot plus. But on this mid to short range one, I'm hitting here about a 10-footer, you know, our par saving birdie range, we'd almost just like to maintain. So you can see the laser line is almost on the fleshy part of my right thumb here. So at the back of the handle, my hands are slightly forwards. I want to return to a similar position. And I'd encourage you to look at it. Oh, yeah. I'd encourage you to look at it on video and just see, do you return that way? I'd say one of the most common faults is this type of action, where the club head is passing the hands too early and we're adding on too much dynamic loft. And there's a couple of drills that you could do. This is pretty excessive and will get you going above and beyond what you really need. But if you just put an alignment stick at the front edge of the golf club or the grip, so it's going to go underneath your lead armpit, it is going to forward press your hands almost too much here. But it's quite a good one to really feel like that putter doesn't break down too early. So what is causing that putter to open and close more than anything else is my shoulders rocking and rotating. There's less of this style of release through impact. I'm not suggesting there isn't some of that, but if you're too excessive, I want you to feel very much dominated with what the body does, just using an alignment stick up the side of the golf club. Again, that is excessive, but if you are flicky, definitely give it a go. And you could sort of set something up like I've done here, a little contraption. I've just stuck 2 T-pegs together and it would go in the end of the grip here. Now, this could hurt if I get it wrong. I've got the pointy bit of the T-peg sticking towards my trail forearm. So if I get too flicky through impact, I dig the T more into my forearm. So I'd almost look for, again, if we were going to go excessive, I'd try and touch the flat part of the T-peg against my lead forearm and maintain that position, or just a little gap and again maintain that position. What I don't want it is working backwards. Let's give it a go. Just a little idea of a simple exercise you could do if you didn't have use of a laser line. This works brilliantly. So I'm going to leave just, in fact, I'm going to go excessive. So I'm going to touch it to my forearm, which is more forward press than I would normally like to see. There are some good players who do that, but what you see with the tour players is they tend to vary the loft of their putter. So those with more forward press would tend to use a lower lofted putter. Sorry, more forward press, they'd use more loft. If there's someone like a Zach Johnson who starts with his hands back, he actually starts with a very low lofted putter. So they're having them a little bit more custom built to their putting stroke. But you can see here, quite excessive with my hands a little bit more forwards. I'm just trying to maintain that. And it's come back a little, but you can see it's very little. It wasn't much of a movement, much of a release there. The longer the follow through, the more this is going to work backwards for sure. And that's why on those short to mid-range putts, I'd say it's pretty easy to really not use the wrists whatsoever and try and maintain that angle. But I just want you to think about the loft you produce at impact with a putter. And it might be something you've never thought about before, but if you struggle with distance control, often leaving putts short, this could well be the reason. I often see it, golfers doubling the loft of their putter. So let's start. Let's hit one last one. Hands set just in front of that laser line, and let's maintain that position by feeling it's more of a body movement rather than the hands movement. So my shoulders are just going to rock and rotate. And I'm maintaining loft on the putter. And it can't be too bad if I've holed 3 out, well, I was going to say 3 out of 3, I hit 4 putts, so 3 out of 4. Still pretty good odds. I'll take 75% putts hold from 10 foot, I'll tell you, every day. If that video does help, make sure you hit the thumbs up, share it with as many golfers as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content just like this.